welcome to Jessistories. If this is your first time coming, thanks so much for being here. This is a safe, inclusive space. Today we have Quinn as our special guest, and Quinn will tell you a little bit about themselves. Go ahead, Quinn.
Yeah, so my name is Quinn Jenkins. My pronouns are he, they, and I am the CEO and founder of Sprout Together.
What inspired you to make Sprout Together into reality?
So, actually, as someone who is disabled, I have struggled a lot with employment throughout my whole life. And I originally started Sprout Together. There's a whole chain of events that kind of led to it. The first one was starting a nonprofit or an internship with a local nonprofit, BIPOC Foundation. I did a 10-month internship with them, and it was phenomenal. Absolutely changed my life, gave me the structure that I needed to like figure out how to work and balance my health because they were willing to accommodate me, and it was the first environment that I had been in that was willing to accommodate my needs and work with me and see my value and my potential and see that it was worth accommodating, like see that it was worth listening to me when I said, okay, I need a 4-day work week. Like, I'm really sorry, but I need 3 days of rest in order to be at my best. And they went, okay, let's do it, because they saw the work that
Oh
I
no,
did.
you froze.
Oh no, where
Oh,
did I break up?
and I froze too.
Gosh,
Come back. Okay. I
are we
think
back?
we're back.
Okay, where did I break up?
You were explaining how you were for the first time ever getting accommodations and kind of stopped there.
So I finally got accommodations and things just really took off from there. I actually ended up winning an award for my time there. I got the 2024 Volunteer of the Year award at the gala, which was amazing and a massive surprise. But they are a nonprofit dedicated to helping BIPOC entrepreneurs start, grow, and scale their businesses, which means that as part of my internship, I was able to take their accelerator program. So I took their accelerator program, the BIPOC Founders Hub, and it took me from like the ideation stage of figuring out what business you want to do to getting a pitch deck together. And so while we were doing the ideation phase, I went into this honestly, as a disabled person who has struggled to be employed, I was going to make an administrative services business. I was just going to freelance my admin skills that I had picked up over the last 10 months and hopefully be able to make enough money to pay my rent myself one day. That's the dream. But we did the self-discovery process. We did the digging about like, who am I? What is my why? What do I want? And like, what can I dedicate myself to? What can I devote the rest of my life to? Can I wake up to every single day and give myself to with 110%? And I can't do that for an administrative services business. I can't do that for a job where my whole business is just working for other people and taking other people's instructions for money. Like, that is just not me. It's not me. And not only that, but I realized that what I was trying to do was I was trying to find a place for myself under capitalism. I was trying to carve out a little hole where I could thrive and succeed and that would work for me. But what I realized is that that isn't good enough. It is not good enough for me to be the only person that has a place to succeed. And so instead of coming up with a business that enabled me to have this little bubble, I created a business that wants to expand that bubble, to create a safe place for everyone to succeed in every workplace, to make it so that every manager understands things like autism and ADHD, so that when you have a moment on shift, instead of being like reprimanded, you are understood and met with coping skills and things that are constructive rather than things that are actively harmful to your person and lead to shame spirals and guilt spirals and all of these things that come with neurodiversity, right? Like, I've always been an activist. I've always cared about everyone. I've always been very empathetic and very much a bleeding heart, and very much like dropped out of school because I realized it was a tool of capitalism and therefore couldn't participate in the system anymore with like goodwill and like I've always stuck to my guns and my beliefs and my values. And Sprout Together is an embodiment of that. It's an embodiment of my beliefs and my values that everyone deserves a place to thrive. Everyone deserves the chance to get the accommodations that I got at BIPOC Foundation and figure out that they are capable of amazing things and that they can achieve these things and that they can have this work-life balance and that they can have this positivity and this feeling of accomplishment and this sense of purpose. And like that's what I want for everyone is positivity and a nice life and people who understand them and empathize with them. And I'm trying to teach people how to do that, is trying to teach them how to understand and how to empathize and how to communicate a little better and how to support each other a little better. And that's what it's all about. And it's about lived experience is the other side of it. I looked at what a lot of people are doing in like the DEI space and saw that there wasn't specifics. We don't talk about the intricacies of like Islam, for example. We don't talk about the intricacies of Islam and the holidays and the like routines that come with it. We just talk about how to be vaguely respectful of it and don't be racist and pretend that's enough. But the thing is that when we want to truly accommodate people, it's more than just assimilating them into our culture. It's truly accommodating their culture and acknowledging it and celebrating it and bringing it into our own as part of a rich, vibrant tapestry, right? Like, I have a very beautiful vision of the world where we all get along, and I'm trying to work towards it just through education and through lived experience because I read a book that basically said that like the best way for people to learn about people that are different from them, right? Like I myself am a trans man. And so by virtue of me being the one teaching these classes, even when we're not talking about gender and sexuality, people are learning about gender and sexuality. I am a gay trans man. Simply by talking to me, you are getting experience with the queer community. And so there's a level of like tacit empathy building and bridge building that we're doing simply by keeping true to our premise of lived experience. You are always learning from someone who has lived through what they're talking about. I'm never going to talk about Tourette's because I don't have Tourette's. I'm going to talk about ADHD. I'm going to talk about autism. I'm going to talk about anxiety, but I'm also not going to talk about race because I'm white as hell. So, like, I don't have any experience being a racialized individual. I have never been a victim of systemic racism. I'm not going to teach about it because I can't provide any real example of it. Where we're strongest is when I talk about my own life and my own experiences because I've experienced a lot. And it's using those experiences to relate to people, to connect with people, to really make those human connections that we're kind of missing right now. And that's like the beauty of Sprout Together when it all comes together is the connections that we make and the way that we're hopefully creating a web of other connections that people are going to make. And yeah.
Very true. I like that. And I fully agree. Also, being fellow autistic ADHD, I agree with the lived experience. Like, I don't like speaking from any place that isn't my own personal experience. And on the ADHD note, I forgot to say, if you made it this far, please like, subscribe, and check out the info that's going to be about Quinn and Quinn's business below. Please click. And if you like our conversation, please ask Quinn more questions
Yes.
and check out Quinn's business site. Okay, my next question is, how do you help the LGBT, well, you kind of explained that, LGBTQIA plus disabled community with mental health?
Yeah, it's really education, but I think the way that we help the community most directly outside of like creating better work environments, which is like the overall goal, right? We actually have one-on-one services that we just piloted recently. Realign your routine is what I'm calling it. And it's all about helping someone figure out the flow that works for them in their life. So I've created this whole system and it helps. It's like a mindset shift and also like a Notion template. And it's this whole system, but it's this like fluid, feel good way of tracking your priorities is how I'm going to kind of word it. It's a way to hold yourself accountable for achieving the things that you want to achieve that doesn't feel suffocating. Because, like, personally, I cannot schedule out my day. Like, I can't say, like, I'm going to work on this at this time and this at this time and this at this time. That is not how my brain works. But I can, at like the start of my day, decide, like, okay, so I need to get some content creation done and I have a meeting at 1. So if I do the content creation at some point in the morning, I'll have energy for the meeting at 1 and my brain will be working. So, okay, we've got it figured out. It's all very loosey goosey. It's all very how the vibes are feeling that day. And that's what works best for me, because following the system of the loosey goosey process of like focusing on what needs to be done, but not beating myself up when it's done in a different way than expected, or at a different time than expected, or in bigger chunks or smaller chunks or whatever. It's really about that guilt and shame and addressing those cycles and getting away from them and just embracing the natural way that neurodivergent brains work and not fighting it, because like fighting it makes it so much worse. It is so much harder for us to achieve the things that we want to achieve when we are trying to fit into a system that wasn't designed with us in mind, and a lot of systems out there aren't designed with us in mind. And so I designed one that is, and so far it's working really well. The first person that went through it absolutely loved the mindset shift. That's really what's the big selling point, is the way that we kind of reframe activities, because that's really the big part of it, is reframing the way that you look at your routine and changing the way that you think about activities like social media and video games and music, and like the things that we beat ourselves up about, that we're guilty about, that we think like, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't rest, but like you should. We all need rest. So yeah, that's probably the most direct way that we help the community, is by just getting into their lives and shaking it up.
I like that. That's awesome. And then what type of services does your business provide?
So I touched a little on realign your routine, which is the one-on-one side of things. And then the B2B side of things is the education. So we have Expand Your Toolkit right now, which is focused on 6 pillars of managing and maintaining mental health. So we go from stress management, time management, to self-advocacy and like long-term care strategies. And we kind of go over a lot of strategies. Those are very strategy based workshops, very tangible tools that you can use to change the way that you react to these things, change the way that you handle these things, to shift your mindset and like give you something real. Like that's really what I care about with the Expand Your Toolkit series, is that every single instance of Expand Your Toolkit gives you something that you can come away from it. Like there is a slide that you can take a picture of, and it gives you a tool that you can use when you get home to apply to your life. There is some kind of tangible change that you leave with that you can apply, because otherwise I'm not providing the value that I'm telling you I'm going to provide, right? Like otherwise there is no toolkit for you to expand. And those have been going really well. We've been piloting those at the library, and yeah, they've been a hit. The people who were at time management, we really connected really well. And I actually had a mother who has 3 kids, and she showed me her schedule, and I swear to God, my heart dropped when I saw this schedule. Like, I am a CEO. I know what a busy schedule can look like. Yeah, I like almost had a panic attack on the spot. And so I just told her, I'm like, I can't fix this. Like, this is beyond my powers. I cannot make less commitments for you. Like, you've got 3 kids. I can't make those kids have less sports and less extracurriculars. I can't solve that. But what I can tell you to do is to please, if you take nothing else away from today, book 15 minutes a day for yourself. Just 15 minutes. If all you do is sit down and listen to music in silence for 15 minutes, if you take 15 minutes to text your friends or play Candy Crush on your phone, I don't care what it is, but 15 minutes a day. And she's like, really? But like, I don't have time. And I'm like, no, you do. I promise you, you have time for 15 minutes to yourself, because what matters at the end of the day is that you have the energy to do all of this, to take care of your kids, to show up fully and authentically. So you have to take care of yourself. And that's the benefit of the lived perspective, right? Like that's what we bring to the table when you're learning from Sprout Together, is that we are talking from a place of, we have seen what happens when you neglect your mental health. We have seen what happens when you neglect the people around you, when you neglect your relationships, when you don't kind of pay attention to all of the little things that happen in life. And so we want to really encourage people to be mindful of those things and to think about the ways that they can be active and really take that proactive role in their own mental health, so that more people are working on it consciously. Because I think that that's what a lot of people slip up on, is thinking that happiness is a destination, and it's more of a journey. It's more of a process.
That's awesome that you do that too, and that you're honest with what you can and cannot control, and someone helping someone. That's really healthy and good, honestly.
It's all about helping people at the end of the day and giving them the tools that they need to help themselves. And that's really what I believe in. Is I've been through a lot of therapy. I've had to figure out a lot of my own shit, and I have learned a lot as a result. And if I can teach even one person, if I can reach even one person and mitigate some of the despair that I have felt in the past for them, like if I can keep them from reaching the same point of despair that I ended up in because they have learned something from me and what I have experienced, then it's worth it, right? Like what I have been through is worth it. The effort I have put into Sprout Together is worth it. And the time I have taken to connect with these people is worth it, because like even one person is a difference. And that's what I care about at the end of the day, is making a difference to people and making their lives just a little bit better and a little bit easier, because we have a mental health crisis. We don't really want to talk about it, but like at least in Canada, we're at like over 10% of our population having a diagnosed mental health problem. And so, like, workplaces have to learn. They have to learn how to deal with mental health issues, because the solution isn't disability. The solution isn't sending people home. The solution isn't here's AISH, here's disability, here's whatever, go sit on your couch for the rest of your life and be depressed, because that just feeds into it. It feeds into the cycle of depression. It takes away someone's purpose. It takes away the structure. It takes away so many things that we need in order to survive. And yeah, so I'm just kind of hoping that that's kind of the difference that we can make as well, is that even one person who experiences a bout of depression doesn't lose their job because of it. Instead, they get comforted and supported and guided to the treatment that they need if they need treatment, right? Like something that we're really big on advocating for in all of our classes is like, if you need therapy, go get therapy. This is not therapy. We can teach you some therapy stuff, but you still need therapy as well. And like, we always want to go over the point where we talk about like the definition of crisis, and we talk about like when it's the time to go and get help. Like, how do you recognize that in your life? How do you recognize it in yourself that like, oh my gosh, this is a point where I need to reach out. I need to ask someone for help with this. And then we also go over like how to have that conversation, like what kind of framework can you use to approach someone that you notice is struggling. And we call it the HOP. I call it HOP to it, and it stands for honest, open, and plan, because you have to be honest, you have to be open, and you have to leave with a plan, because that's really the big thing, is making sure that you have an action step when you're dealing with someone who's in crisis. It's making sure that whatever you talk about, whatever you realize, whatever you approach them with, like if you notice someone's stressed out and you come to them and you say like, hey, you've been acting weird, you're stressed out, you need to come up with some kind of next step. Like, okay, I'm going to follow up with you next week and ask if you've started exercising more, or ask if you've changed your diet, because that's like what you've come up with as a solution. Or cutting back on caffeine. Like there are tons of things that you can do, but you need to then hold that person accountable. And I don't know, there's layers to it. I kind of got a little off topic, I think,
It's
but
okay. It's all good
that's
stuff.
that's what we do. I think that was the question.
I think you technically answered a couple at once. Well, you already answered that one too. What steps as a community can we make with, I guess, currently what's happening in the world?
Honestly, that's a tough one. I think it's a tough one at the same time as being very simple. And the simple answer is stick together, right? Like
Yeah.
don't fall victim to the infighting, don't fall victim to quibbling over things that don't matter, don't fall victim to the perfect like activist, the perfect leftist, the perfect anything. Don't fall victim to any of those ideas, those ideals, and just find solidarity with each other, because that's what we need right now is solidarity. We don't need infighting. We don't need the petty arguments that we like to have online. Like we all like to get a little bit involved in the discourse from time to time, but sometimes we need to put that on the back burner. Like the time to debate the whys and hows and wherefores of all of the stuff that we believe in has passed. The time to act is now. And the time to come together, the time to build networks, the time to start your own organizations. Like that is the other thing I would say is I have seen the belly of the beast in terms of the nonprofit industry, and it needs more people with the right intentions, is what I will say. So if you're someone out there right now who is thinking, like, what can I do? Start something. Start something. And even if it goes nowhere, you tried. And that's what matters at the end of the day. Like, you could be starting something that goes on to support tens of thousands of people. You could be starting something that goes on to support 50. But at the end of the day, you've supported 50 people that otherwise would not have had that support. So just try. There is no harm in trying. You have nothing to lose and you have so much to gain and even more to provide. And I think that we all have something to provide. I think that everyone has within them something that they can give to the world, whether it's people who are artists with their art, people who are writers with their writing, or me with my ability to organize and experience with complex mental health issues, teaching about it. Like we all have something that we can offer. We just have to figure it out and apply it. And I think that now is the time. Now is the time to be in motion. It is not the time to rest. It is not the time to wallow. It is not the time to let our negative emotions take over. It is not the time, as much as it is tempting, as much as it is really easy right now to just drown in negative emotions and the news cycle and just let it consume you. It's not what we need. And it's not how we get out of this. It's not how we get stronger. And it's not how we build the world that we want to build. Like when it comes to wanting to see change happen, you have to assume that no one else is going to do it, that you have to do it yourself, because that's how the change happens, is when every single person stands up and says, I've had enough and I'm changing things. Because that's what I did. And it months, like almost a year later, is an actual business. I have things that have piloted and test run and customers lined up. Like it is real, it is happening, and I am changing the world in the way that I want to change the world. And it's simply because I have woken up every day and dedicated myself to it. And anyone is capable of doing that. If I, with coming out of years of disability and being unable to work, can put together an entire business that is teaching people things and is valuable to them, what can you do? Right? That's really my perspective on literally everyone that I meet, is like, you're so much more capable than I am. What could you be capable of doing? Like, what if you applied yourself in this way? What if you applied yourself in this way? What if I like stood here with my little pom poms and cheered you on really aggressively until you achieved your dreams? Because that's just my whole vibe.
I like that a lot. Let's see. In a perfect world, what would it look like for you?
Everyone would be fed and housed. That's that's my biggest thing, I think, is everyone would eat plentifully as much as they want. Their cupboards would never be empty. And Their house would never be cold. Their electricity would never go out. Yeah. And maybe borders wouldn't exist. I think that's the other thing that would happen for me in a perfect world. As someone who is like an immigrant, like I'm an immigrant to Canada from England, and what that has taught me is that borders really don't mean a whole lot. Like, don't get me wrong, I
I don't like
am
borders.
like I am loyal to my English culture. I am English. That is how I identify in terms of like my cultural identity. But I don't care about what that means in terms of borders, right? Like to me, being English is about like the history and, to be real, acknowledging the legacy of colonialism and working to dismantle it. That's how I view English culture and what it should be like moving forward, is like if you're not working to dismantle the legacy of colonialism as an English person, what are you doing? But that's something that isn't defined by a line on a map, right? Like it is defined by my relationship to my people, my ancestors, my land, and the land that I live on currently. And I just think that the entire idea of tossing someone in a camp or in a jail cell simply because they crossed a line on a map that you think they shouldn't have crossed is one of the biggest failings of humanity in the modern era. Because why? Just why? Like, I understand housing issues, I understand population issues, I understand all of this shit, but when there are literal genocides going on, who are we to say that people can't come here, right? Like, who are we to say this place that is safe, you are not allowed? Yeah. So those are probably the big things that would happen for me in a perfect world. In like a more frivolous vein, I think in my perfect world, the Jonas Brothers would never have broken up and gone on solo acts. They would have just been the Jonas Brothers the whole time. That's my little frivolous thing in a perfect world. And teleportation. I'd like teleportation. Maybe living in the space age. Like I joke a lot about this, but like my ideal life, everything like aside, if I could really fabricate my ideal life, I would have a spaceship and I would mine asteroids. There is something about mining. Like, I just have this longing for the mines. When I play video games like Stardew Valley, I'm in the mines. I'm Minecraft, I'm in the mines. I quite literally played Return to Moria specifically because the fantasy of being a dwarf who is reclaiming a mine just really appeals to me. So like there is definitely something there in my soul. Like I had an ancestor who was a miner and just loved it, and that's like something I channel sometimes. So yeah, there's definitely like that alternative perfect life for me where I'm just a dude with like my nice little rickety old spaceship and I shoot asteroids all day with a cool laser and then sell it at like the local space station. Yeah, I'm a big Star Trek fan, so
That's pretty awesome. I'm a Pokemon. That's one thing I really love. Like this is
who's
my
your favorite Pokemon?
well, I have multiples, so I love Charizard and then I love Cinderace, but I'm also starting to really like some of the evolutions, like Leafeon is one of my favorites. But yeah, I can go on and on and on. But if I had to put them in order, Cinderace and Charizard are definitely together because I love them very much and can't choose between them either. But yeah, I go more on the fire side of Pokemon. I've noticed that with myself every so often. Like Leafeon is an example, and I think there's a kitty green Pokemon that I always forget their name, but they're pretty much a kitty Pokemon. That's part of the green side of things.
No, I hear you. I'm a big fan of Aegis Slash. That's my favorite Pokemon because I played Gen 6 as my first generation.
That's pretty awesome, honestly. That's a cool Pokemon.
Yeah. I uh I just like the cool sword Pokemon, and like the fact that he is like ace quality Pokemon is just a bonus.
Yes, that's true. Well, I do like that. Most of the Pokemon, unless stated otherwise, are pretty genderless. Like Charizard didn't actually get labeled he, him, or anything like that until I think it was at least 5 or 6 years ago. Because Charizard never used to really have a gender. People just assumed a gender. Most Pokemon don't have a gender unless stated otherwise. And on top of that, a fun fact is an autistic Chinese man is the one who made Pokemon happen because of his special interest in loving animals and took that and made Pokemon.
That makes so much sense is what willing to say as like someone who mostly hangs out with autistic people. Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, pretty awesome too. That's also why I'm combining in my own business when it will happen fully. I'm starting during the summer to fully start getting things moving, but I'm combining like Pokemon cards and the books I've written already in packages on my actual thing, because when I have people come on to tell their story or whatever, I want everything to be free to them. So if they're doing a book, when I'm able to afford it, hiring a whole lot of editors and everything, and only hiring disabled LGBTQIA plus. That will be my inclusivity, but I am not going to hire anyone who's neurotypical or anything like that. Just
My
only
whole
disabled.
team is queer and neurodivergent as fuck. Like, I think I have one cishet person on my team, and they are ADHD, and also she's like a Muslim woman. So, various degrees of marginalized outside of being queer, but the biggest ally and uh not entirely certain how to deal with the fact that every single person that I've introduced to the team afterwards is like a they them non-binary person. And I'm like, yeah, so here's the rest of the team, and they're all like queer and very queer. And I'm like, yeah, this is the team. It's very, very queer. It's very neurodivergent, it's very disabled. Like we're very, and it's all very loosey goosey. That's what I love. I love running my own organization because I get to make the decisions and like how it's run. And so my team, when I bring someone on, they're like, so what are your expectations for like work hours? Do I have to work at a certain time? Do I have to work certain days? Do you have a certain like expectation? I'm like, no, like work whenever you want, work however works for you. If the work gets done, that's what I care about. I don't care about anything else. If you finish the work in 5 hours, you finish the work in 5 hours. Like it is what it is. And like it's nice because everyone that works with me likes working with me because they get respected as like autonomous adults who know how to manage their own lives, and I get people who do really good work as a result and like care about working for me. And yeah, it's really dope. It's nice. I'm definitely got a lot of things to learn about being a leader, like about having a team and how to communicate and how to like inspire people, because I guess that's part of my role now is to inspire my team. But I'm figuring it out. We're getting all of the things figured out, and like it's going pretty well. And yeah, no, things are we're getting our branding done right now. So like things are in like an in-between for Sprout Together. So the team is like tensed like a coil and ready to spring. Does that make sense?
That's pretty awesome. Before we end things, can you let people know where they can find you? And which links below will also exist, but telling them
Yes.
to.
So there should be a link below to sprouttogether.org, which is our website. And there you can find pretty much everything that we do, a bit more about me, about everything that I do, about the team, and you can hopefully book our services. Hopefully we figured that out. Our website is a bit of a work in progress. And you can also find me as Rebellious CEO on various social medias. That's my brand, is doing things differently, because that's what I'm here to do, is to do things differently and shake things up. And I figured why not be loud about it, because yeah, I'm pretty unapologetic when it comes to things like this. Is really how it is. I went to my first trade show and dropped a hearty F bomb into the mic and realized in that moment that, yeah, I'm not very good at being quiet about the fact that I'm different from everyone else. And it's quite loud, and like, fuck it. It either works or it doesn't, right? Like,
Yes,
and
absolutely. That's actually part of my issue too. Even though I'm in America, it seems like our status of things are very similar. But why I want to only work for myself and still have a team that are like me, as in disabled, well, I'm just going to stick with queer, disabled and queer. And yes, anyone who is in a marginalized background, I will absolutely want on a team. That's why I'm trying to make my business work. That's why my site is also in the works and probably won't be shown until later in time and will start to be a part of, because I always do for every one of these first, all your links, whatever you choose them to be, will be there after the description of this interview. And then all my stuff comes after that. And eventually with the all my stuff, I'll have a link to my website. But right now, because it's still under construction pretty much, I'm not going to let anyone see that right now.
You're doing things much smarter than I am because I am like a build out in the open motherfucker. Like my websites are all live, but none of them are finished. None of them are finished. None of them are polished. None of them are like up to perfection, but they're there. They're out. The information is out there for people to get. I think it's good because it means that like in the grand scheme of like SEO, I'm getting like longevity. Like the longer you have a URL active, the more like the higher your SEO ranking will be. So like having the website live is good, but also I lose customers because my website sucks. So
So that's funny. Mine's live too, but at least there's two parts to it right now. The parts that are live, but not the if you want to buy something. I got rid of all my coaching services and everything, so I'm reworking it completely to how I actually see it being. But yeah, all right, now we're gonna do the ending stuff. And this part, well, you'll get to ultimately review this too and say what you want out and staying in. And your interview is going to be published sometime in March. I won't have the exact date, but I'll let you know when it's close to.
perfect. Oh,
Okay.
I think I still need to get you headshots and stuff for promo materials as well.
Yes, please. Whenever, well, yeah, as soon as possible, because you might be towards the end of March, because I'm right now doing an order. And this will be shared in the FAM app too, just so you know. That's what I'm doing with everyone that I've gotten from specifically the FAM app. I'm going to share their individual interviews in there on top of, and please do share. I'm going to be giving you little clips that you can use to advertise the channel however you want. And then you'll also get the thumbnail to use however you want. A lot of people don't understand that this is their material to advertise their interview.
Yeah,
So,
if you give me the content to advertise with, I will advertise the shit out of it. And
okay,
like
good. Not everyone's gotten that.
the earlier you get me the content, the better. Like I will tease people before you release and shit like that. If you get it to me before release, and like I know how launches work. I know how these things like I've
Okay,
done
thank
events
you.
and shit, right? So like with events, it's like the stakes are so much higher because you're trying to generate like 50 attendees worth of hype in like 3 weeks because that is the kind of timeline we used to do events at. So yeah, I completely understand wanting to get like the advertising out and all that kind of stuff. I'll get you headshots, I'll get you a few different options, and yeah, you're good. I got you.
Okay. Because at least how many people have done this with so far? I've done this with 3 people. I've given them the thumbnail, everything. I still do advertising on my part, but I always hope that on the other part, but I'm not going to push it. I always hope for the other part that they advertise too. But so far, it's been dead in the water with most of the people I've done it with. So I'm really hoping that more people actually start getting the fact I'm not freely giving. Well, I am freely giving it, but I'm also hoping for at least advertising on your part because it not only
Vacation.
helps you, it helps me too.
It does. It does. It helps you and it helps us. And well, it's also like, yeah, it's setting both of us up for success, right? Like the more people that are hyped to watch this episode, the better for both of us.
Exactly. So that's what I'm hoping for. And I even reiterated with so far everyone, at least from the fam app, I'm trying to reiterate of please do share. Don't feel that you can only do certain ones. Like I give 3 short 60-second videos that are the best from our interview
Hmm.
that you can share out. And there should be like a little Jessistories symbol on the side of it. And then again, thumbnail. Those are all 4 of the materials you'll get out of it. I don't know if you'll get it 3 weeks in advance. The most advanced you might get it is a week, maybe 2, depending on how fast I can go. But we'll see because my day job takes up a lot of my time. So this is all done last minute most of the time.
I completely understand. Whenever you get it is perfect, and I will get you like the headshots is like probably as soon as we get off the call.
Okay, I'm gonna do the ending part of first, thank you for this interview. Very much appreciated. And
Thanks for
thank you. Well, sorry.
thanks for having me. Like seriously, thank you for having me. I've had a ton of fun. It was an honor to talk to you and meet you and tell my story and to chat as much as I have. I love chatting.
I do too. And I guess embrace your truth, tell your story. You have a story to tell, I have a story to tell. And if you are just tuning in and have made it through this entire interview, please like, subscribe, please check out Quinn's stuff at the description part of this video. and share this video with friends, families, even enemies. Very much appreciated. The more you spread, since the algorithm hates LGBTQIA plus in the first place on YouTube, all sharing helps greatly. So please share.
And share it
And
with your employer too.
there you go, even better. Yeah, what Quinn said. Share with your employer too. Like, subscribe. I'll see you guys next Saturday. Bye, everyone. Thanks. Peace.